Hello and welcome back to Koala Moon, children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. In our own little celebration, we would like to share a special story with you tonight. It features fairies, wishes, and an Irish mythical creature called a leprechaun. This leprechaun is called Shamrock, and one day he goes on a walk through a forest where he meets 7 friendly fairies. The leprechaun helps the fairies, and in return they give him gold coins to say thank you for his kindness. Each coin contains a wish. Let's find out how Shamrock uses them. This is The Sleepy Leprechaun by Gillian Rogerson. Once upon a time, in a land called Ireland, there lived a friendly leprechaun called Shamrock. The little leprechaun loved singing and dancing, and most of all, he loved sleeping. Shamrock was a magic leprechaun, and he had an enchanted flute that he would use when someone needed help. One sunny day, Shamrock set off for a stroll through a forest. He had a feeling that his help might be needed that day somehow. As he walked along, he soon came upon a small fairy with red hair, green eyes, and wings in the shape of hearts. She was standing outside a cottage which had red roses growing around the door. There was a small paintbrush in one of her hands and a paint pot in the other. The red fairy was looking at the paint pot with a concerned expression on her face. Shamrock called out a friendly hello and walked over to the fairy. He introduced himself and said, "I couldn't help noticing that something seems to be troubling you about that paint pot." The red fairy looked at Shamrock, sighed gently, and said, "I've completely run out of red paint. I've been to the local shop, and they don't have any either." She told Shamrock her name was Rose, and she loved painting hearts and red roses onto greeting cards. She would then give the cards to her friends, family, and neighbours. She loved seeing the joy on their faces when they received one of her cards. Rose looked back at the empty pot and shrugged. I suppose I'll have to paint something else, but I do so love painting red hearts and flowers. Shamrock took his flute from his pocket and told Rose it had magical powers and that he could use them to help her. "If you would like my help, that is," he asked. Rose broke into a smile and said, "I would like that very much, thank you." The leprechaun looked at the ground in front of the fairy's cottage. An idea came to him. He lifted the flute to his mouth and began to play a soothing tune. The soft melody drifted around the fairy and the leprechaun. It made Rose smile, and she swayed gently from side to side. After a while, Shamrock stopped playing the flute. He told Rose to look at the ground in front of her. The little fairy did so and was astonished to see roses slowly sprouting from the grass. They grew bigger and bigger, and soon their velvety red petals opened. Inside the petals were small paint pots which contained red paint. Shamrock told Rose that the pots inside the roses were magical ones and would never, ever run out of red paint. For a moment, Rose didn't know what to say. She gazed at the magical flowers and slowly shook her head in disbelief. She looked back at the thoughtful leprechaun and said, thank you so much. I can't wait to start painting more hearts and flowers." "You are very welcome," Shamrock replied with a smile. He was about to walk away, but Rose reached into one of her pockets and pulled out a gold coin. She gave it to Shamrock and said, "This is my way of saying thank you for your help. This coin contains one wish, and you can use it for anything you want." Shamrock was touched by her kindness. He took the coin, said goodbye, and went on his way. Very soon he met another fairy. This fairy had spiky gold hair tipped with orange and bright orange wings that shimmered in the sunshine. The fairy was sitting on a rock with her chin resting on her hands. She was staring at the grass with a puzzled look on her little face. Shamrock called out a cheerful hello and introduced himself. He asked if something was bothering the fairy, and if so, could he help? The orange fairy sighed and said, "I don't think anyone can help me, but thank you for your kind offer." She told Shamrock her name was Blossom, and she was usually a very happy fairy, and from the moment she woke up, she always found something to be cheerful about. Blossom said, "But this morning I couldn't find anything at all to be happy about. Not a single thing. I think I've lost my happiness somewhere. I don't know where to find it or even how to start looking for it." Shamrock said kindly, "Your happiness is always inside you, but sometimes you need a little bit of help to wake it up. With your permission, I would like to play my magical flute for you. It might help." Blossom said, "You can try, but I'm not sure how a flute will help me." Shamrock brought the enchanted flute to his mouth and blew gently on it. A joyful melody came from the flute, and musical notes magically appeared in the air. Blossom watched the notes bob along on the gentle breeze. She stood up and followed their journey. The notes floated into rays of sunlight that streamed through the branches. Blossom walked into the rays and felt the gentle warmth of the sun on her skin. A small smile alighted on her face. The musical notes bobbed away towards some fluttering butterflies. Blossom followed the notes, and when she got closer to the butterflies, they danced around her with their bright wings flapping slowly. Blossom danced with the fairies, and her smile grew bigger. The orange fairy followed the notes again, and they took her closer to bees who were resting on flowers and buzzing quietly, and then over to some ladybirds who were climbing tall blades of grass. Everything she saw filled Blossom's heart with love and happiness, and her smile grew even bigger. Her orange wings glowed brightly. Shamrock stopped playing his flute and lowered it. The musical notes faded away, but Blossom continued to smile at the beauty of her surroundings. Shamrock asked how she was feeling. "Wonderful, just wonderful," Blossom replied, her eyes full of joy. "I'd forgotten just how beautiful this forest is, and just looking more closely at it has made me feel so happy and warm inside. Thank you so much for helping me." Shamrock said she was very welcome. Before he could say goodbye and continue on his journey, Blossom gave him a fairy coin, just as Rose had done, and told him it contained one wish. Shamrock took the coin, said thank you, and went on his way. He let out a small yawn. Playing the flute always made him sleepy. He carried on walking through the forest, humming gently to himself and letting out the occasional yawn. Very soon, he came upon another fairy who was standing in the middle of a sun-dappled glade. This fairy had long yellow hair, with a small sunflower tucked behind one ear. A daisy chain hung around her neck, and her pale yellow wings were shaped like daisy petals. The fairy didn't notice Shamrock because she was looking at her legs in confusion. She was mumbling something to herself. Shamrock didn't catch her words, but he could tell something was troubling her. Shamrock politely cleared his throat and said, "Hello there. I do hope I'm not disturbing you, but may I ask, is something bothering you?" The yellow fairy looked at Shamrock and said, "Hello. You're not disturbing me at all. Something is bothering me, and I don't know what to do about it. I have to make up a new dance for a summer ball that's coming up. I love dancing, and I've made up many dances before, but for some reason I can't think of any new moves at all. I've been trying all morning, but I haven't managed to come up with even one new step. I think my legs have forgotten how to dance." Oh. She sighed and shook her head at her legs. Shamrock gently said, "Perhaps you should stop thinking about a new dance and perform one that you already know, one that might be easier for your legs. If you like, I can play my flute. It's a magical one, and it might work its magic on your dancing legs." Shamrock gave his name and then took his flute from his pocket and showed it to the yellow fairy. The fairy smiled and said her name was Sunbeam. She thought performing a dance that she knew well was an excellent idea. Shamrock began to play a light and cheerful melody on his magical flute. The joyful song echoed around the glade. A smile appeared on Sunbeam's face, and she started to tap her feet. Then she swayed from side to side and waved her hands in the air. Her smile grew bigger, and her legs skipped back and forth in a jaunty movement. Shamrock continued playing his upbeat tune, and Sunbeam twirled across the soft grass and whirled around the trees. She hopped onto a rock and had a boogie. She laughed with delight as she got lost in her dance. Shamrock began to tap his feet, and he jigged from side to side. The little fairy jumped off the rock and jigged and jived across the grass. Her eyes suddenly widened, and she said, "Oh, I'm making up a new dance right now. My legs know exactly what to do." Shamrock played his lovely tune while Sunbeam continued to create a new dance. A ray of sun shone down on the dancing fairy and made her wings sparkle and shimmer. When Sunbeam came to the end of her dance, she held her arms out and bowed to her audience of one. Shamrock stopped playing his flute and gave her an enthusiastic round of applause. He said her dance was very impressive, and he was sure she'd be a hit at the summer ball. Sunbeam smiled at Shamrock and said, "It's all thanks to you. I'm going to practice my new dance. I think I can make it even better." The little yellow fairy gave Shamrock a gold coin to thank him for his help. Shamrock said thank you, and with a wave of goodbye, he went on his way. The happy leprechaun walked on and thought about the fairies he had helped and the coins they had given him. He didn't know what to wish for, but thought something might occur to him later. He walked on some more, yawning now and again, and wondering if it was time for his nap yet. Very soon he met another fairy in the forest. This fairy was wearing a green tunic over gold trousers. He had curly emerald green hair, and his wings were shaped like leaves. The little fairy was frowning and looking behind a rock as though possibly searching for something. Shamrock called out a friendly hello and walked over to the green fairy. He asked if he was looking for something. The green fairy looked at Shamrock and smiled. He said, "Indeed, I'm looking for something. I have lost my shoes somewhere. I had them this morning, but I've lost them somewhere." He lifted one of his bare feet and wriggled his toes. "I'll have to find them soon because my feet are getting cold." The fairy introduced himself and said his name was Ashley. Shamrock gave his name and asked Ashley if he would like help finding his shoes. Ashley nodded and said he would like that. Shamrock asked Ashley where he had been that morning. Ashley scratched his head and replied, "Everywhere. I have walked all through the forest. I love walking through the forest and looking at the beautiful trees. Sometimes I lie down beneath the trees and take a nap. I've had 5 naps already today. I must have taken my shoes off during one of my naps, but now I can't remember which tree I slept beneath. I suppose I'll have to go back through the forest and look under every tree, but I'm so very tired." Oh, he let out a long, long yawn. Shamrock yawned too. When the leprechaun finished yawning, an idea popped into his head. He pulled the flute from his pocket and said to the fairy, "You don't have to go looking for your shoes because I can ask them to come to us. This flute is magical, and if I play a certain tune, your shoes should walk towards us. Shamrock gave the green fairy a little grin. Well, that's what should happen. I've never tried to do this before. Shall we give it a go? Ashley nodded and said, Shall I sing a song at the same time? I could ask my shoes to come back to me. Shamrock smiled and said that was a wonderful suggestion. The leprechaun played his flute, and Ashley sang a song and asked his shoes to please return to him. At first, nothing happened. No shoes appeared from any direction. But the leprechaun and the green fairy didn't give up. Shamrock continued playing his flute, and Ashley continued singing to his lost shoes. After a while, a slight rustling sound came from the grass in front of the fairy and leprechaun. The rustling got louder, and then a pair of green shoes danced through the grass and over to Ashley. He smiled at the shoes and picked them up. He gave them a hug and promised never to lose them again. Shamrock lowered his flute and smiled at the happy fairy. Ashley gave Shamrock a gold coin as a thank you. Shamrock took the coin with thanks, said goodbye, and went on his way. As he walked along, Shamrock heard the soothing sound of running water. He followed the sound through the forest and into a lagoon. The little blue fairy was sitting cross-legged at the side of the shimmering water, with a wistful expression on his face. He had long blue hair that hung over his shoulders in gentle waves, and the shape of them reminded Shamrock of the sea. The fairy's sparkling blue wings were covered in raindrop-shaped sequins. Shamrock walked over to the fairy and sat at his side. The blue fairy looked at the leprechaun, smiled, and said, Hi. Hi, Shamrock replied. He introduced himself and said, This is a lovely lagoon, and the water looks very inviting. The fairy nodded in agreement. He said his name was River, and he loved looking at the calm water of the lagoon. He also loved looking at the meandering streams that ran through the forest and the waterfalls that cascaded over the rocks. He said that looking at water always made him feel so peaceful. A dreamy look came into the fairy's blue eyes, and he said, I've heard of a faraway place called the ocean. It sounds amazing. I'd love to visit it one day, but I don't know how to get there. Ah, he sighed softly and turned his gaze back to the water. Shamrock knew how he could help the fairy. He took out his flute, showed it to River, and said, I once met a kind mermaid who lives in the ocean. She said that if I ever needed her help, all I had to do was play a certain tune on my flute, and she would appear. If it's okay with you, I can play that tune now, and when she appears, I can ask her to show you the way to the ocean." The fairy's little eyes grew wide in a mixture of delight and astonishment. "You would do that? For me?" "Of course," Shamrock replied. He put the flute to his mouth and played the special tune to summon his mermaid friend. A few moments later, a beautiful mermaid magically appeared in the lagoon. She had the same blue, wavy hair as River. Shamrock said hello to his friend and explained about River's wish to see the ocean. The mermaid smiled kindly at River, held out her hand and said, "I can magically transport you to the ocean in a second. Can you swim?" River nodded eagerly and said he was a good swimmer and could even swim underwater. He put his little hand into the mermaid's. There was a flash of blue light, and the mermaid and the fairy vanished. A gold coin popped out of the water and landed on Shamrock's lap. A faint call of the fairies, "Thank you," echoed around the lagoon. Shamrock put the coin with the others. He yawned. He was very sleepy, but something told him his help was still needed. He left the lagoon and went on his way. He met an indigo-coloured fairy next, who was called Lavender. Her wings were covered in tiny purple flowers, and a soothing scent drifted from them whenever she flapped her wings. After talking to the fairy, Shamrock discovered she was having trouble falling asleep at night. Lavender explained, "Every time I settle down in my bed, lots of thoughts tumble into my head and whirl around trying to get my attention. I can't seem to get rid of them." Shamrock had also had trouble falling asleep in the past, and he knew of a way to get rid of the bothersome thoughts. He said to the tired fairy, "Can you imagine your thoughts as tiny feathers that float in front of you?" Lavender closed her eyes and scrunched up her face. She stayed like that for a few moments, then opened her eyes and sighed. She said she couldn't imagine the feathers at all. "Let me help you," Shamrock said. He played a magical tune on his flute, and pale purple feathers appeared in front of the fairy. The feathers bobbed gently in the air. Shamrock told Lavender to take some deep breaths and gently blow on the feathers. He said, "Imagine the feathers are your thoughts, and with every deep breath you take and release, you're blowing the thoughts further and further away. And soon, you won't be able to see them anymore." Lavender gazed softly at the feathers. She took a deep breath and slowly let it out. The feathers began to move away from her. She took some more deep breaths and concentrated on the feeling of slowly letting her breath out. Over and over again, she breathed slowly in and then out. And soon the feathers drifted so far away that they couldn't be seen any longer. Lavender smiled softly and said she felt so very relaxed and so very, very sleepy. She settled down on the soft grass and smiled happily. A gold coin floated from the fairy's hand and over to Shamrock. She gave him a tired "thank you" and then fell asleep. Shamrock's eyes closed a little and a yawn escaped from him. He was sleepy too, but he still had a feeling that someone else needed his help. He continued walking through the forest. The sun moved towards the horizon, and the sky grew a little darker. Shamrock walked through a clearing and noticed a fairy sitting on a tuft of grass. She was wearing a dark purple dress that was dotted in shiny star-shaped sequins. Her ears were adorned with silver star earrings, and her silver wings twinkled brightly under the darkening sky. The fairy looked Shamrock's way, smiled, and invited him to sit down with her and stargaze for a while. Shamrock smiled back and sat next to the fairy. They exchanged names, and he discovered her name was Violet, and every night she would look at the stars and get lost in their beauty. Violet said, "I often wonder what the stars would look like if they could dance, and what they would sound like if they could sing." She laughed softly. "But that's impossible, isn't it?" Shamrock said anything was possible if you believed in magic. He explained about his flute and then began to play a gentle tune on it. The soft sound drifted up towards the star-studded sky. The leprechaun continued to play the magical tune, and very soon something wonderful happened. The twinkling stars stretched out their sparkling arms and legs, gave them a little shake, and then began to slowly dance across the moonlit sky. Effortlessly and gracefully, they glided this way and that. The stars started to sing a light, joyful song. They sang about the beauty of the earth below them and all the wonderful beings who lived in the forests, the oceans, and the mountains. The little purple fairy at Shamrock's side put her hands over her heart and gazed at the stars in wonder and love. She swayed gently to the soothing song. After a few mesmerizing minutes, the stars stopped singing and returned to their original positions in the sky. They twinkled brightly and became still. Shamrock lowered his flute and sent a silent thank you to the stars. Violet said, "I don't know how you made that happen, but it was amazing." It's something I will never forget. Please, take this gold coin as my way of saying thank you." She gave him a coin and then lay down beneath the stars and fell asleep. Shamrock put the coin with the others. He had 7 of them now, and he wasn't sure what to do with them. He knew he didn't want to keep the wishes for himself. He wanted to share them with the world, but how would he do that? He walked on a little further and wandered into the meadow. He let his thoughts slowly drift wherever they wanted to. Out of nowhere, a wonderful idea popped into his mind as if by magic. He stopped right where he was and played a tune on his magical flute. A large pot appeared in front of him. He placed the 7 gold coins into the pot and played another tune. Out of the pot arose a beautiful rainbow in 7 colours. Each colour reminded him of the kind fairies who had given him a wish. The rainbow grew bigger and bigger and arched across the night sky. The colours of the rainbow glowed brightly as if made out of stars. Shamrock used his flute for the last time that day and sent magical wishes into the rainbow. He knew that anyone who made a wish upon the rainbow would have their wish granted. Finally, it was time for the sleepy leprechaun to rest. He settled down on the grass and gazed up at the shimmering rainbow. The rainbow began to fade away, but the leprechaun knew it would return over and over again. And everyone around the world who saw the rainbow would get to wish upon it. Now we're floating into a deep and peaceful sleep. Feel how your muscles are relaxing. Your arms are heavy and your legs are too, as they loosen and release any tension remaining from the day. Feel how you let your body fall into the cozy warmth of your bed. Close your eyes. Let your eyelids be heavy. Breathe deeply. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out as you continue to breathe deeply, and as you keep feeling how your body becomes soft and heavy with sleep. Let your mind drift away. That is the wonderful secret about sleep. While your body rests, lying heavily in your bed, your mind is set free, like a bird taking flight from a branch and flying up and up and up into the air. Feel how your mind loosens now, like a balloon that has been untied from a fence and floats up and up and up like a bird. Up and up and up it floats towards the sky until it reaches up into the clouds. Imagine that you have risen up high above the world and your head has poked up through the clouds. Then spread out all around you in the silvery moonlight, white fluffy clouds that look like cotton wool or marshmallows. They look so soft and squishy you can lie back on them and roll around in them. Try it now. Lie back in the soft cradle of the clouds. Feel how they swirl and wrap around your body, holding you gently in the world of sleep. Clouds come in all shapes and sizes. Some are big and fluffy, some are slender wisps. Some look like puffy mushrooms, and others look like paintbrush strokes that have been left on the dark sky. Let your body relax. Let your mind relax too. Let your mind float off into sleep. You are peaceful. You are safe. You are being held in the cozy warmth of sleep. With your eyes closed, let your mind drift up, up, up and away. In the world of dreams, you can go anywhere you like. You can float on blue oceans with ripples and tufts of waves. Or you can visit castles built in the sky with spiraling turrets and drawbridges over sparkling moats. Or you can wander into the peaceful woods where the birds are twittering and the trees are dense with dark green leaves. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out again as you fall more deeply into your cozy sleep. And with your eyes still closed, take a look around with your mind at where your dreams have taken you. When I fall asleep, I dream that I've gone to a world high up in the clouds. Sometimes the clouds are dappled silver from the moonlight. Sometimes they're soft pink and gold, reflecting the light of the twinkling stars. What form do your dreams take? Where does your mind go when you fall asleep? Maybe in your dreams there are flocks of white fluffy sheep huddling together on the green fields. Look at the mother ewe yawn widely before she tucks her little lambs beneath her woolly fleece. Or maybe you dream of a friendly dragon, curled up with his tail wrapped around him, a little trail of clouds puffing out of his nostrils. Look, the cloud dragon is smiling at us and waving. What a friendly dragon he is. Or maybe you dream of cute puppies lying on their backs, their tongues lolling out of their mouths, their eyes closing because they've had such a long day. They look tired, and there's their papa dog, fluffy and white, padding softly over to wish the puppies good night. Up here on the sea of clouds, you can be free. Feel how light you are, weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Feel everything heavy from the day lift off you and drift away, taken away by currents until they disappear over the bank of clouds. Any worries you have been having, watch them float away. Anything that has been weighing on your mind during the daytime, now you can let them go and watch them drift away. Your worries are not you. You are not your worries. You can let them go. Watch them float away. Now you are light as air. You are as gentle as starlight. You are as soft as the clouds. Up in the sleepy sky, everything is weightless and peaceful. The clouds stretch out like a sea of tranquility. Close your eyes and feel the clouds wrap around you. Feel them bearing your body gently into the land of sleep. Feel your eyes close. Feel them rest heavily as your body relaxes into sleep. Feel your mind lighten. Feel it loosen and drift away, light as a feather, soft as the clouds. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. The world of clouds is waiting for you. Let yourself fall into the clouds' soft, warm hug. They are here to protect you. They are here to cushion you. They are here to hold you as you enjoy your deep and peaceful sleep. Sleep well, little one. Sleep well in the land of clouds. Feel how light you are. Feel how weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Light as air, gentle as starlight, soft as clouds. Good night, little one.